I know I'm looking rough. I've yet to hit the shower. We're going to do that after this, so don't worry about it. I just now got my little bit of cup of coffee for one of my favorite mugs. One of my favorite businesses here at McMinimans. It's been doing pretty good. It's been raining on and off, but that's what happens this time of year. Been coordinating a lot of things since I've been very tired and swamped lately. The business is just super busy. I have meetings. Noelle switched jobs, but still with the university. Her whole day is all meetings. Different meetings, but it's typically all meetings. So that's her life now. She loves it, but that's her life. She's going to be going to Atlanta in May, which is pretty cool. So we probably all will go. And so the business is doing great. It's doing really, really well. I'm super busy. I have constant meetings too. Mine required me to actually physically go places and do stuff. But it is what it is. Happy to do it. Okay, Google, stop. Sorry. I got to dump my molds over there here in a second. Let me do that now because I haven't asked HershNoeie, so I want to make sure that I focus on that. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. Had to open up the window a little bit too. But anyway, so this Ask HershNoeie is, hey Hersh, quick question. With all the stuff going on in the Ukraine, do you think it will stop there? And do you think something like that similarly would happen to the U.S.? Well, to answer your question, will it stop just in Ukraine? I have no idea. Right? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that while it may be possible that someone could try to do, or a country could try to do that to the U.S., it's highly not plausible. Anything's possible, but it's just highly not plausible. And the reason why I say that is because one of the most well-funded, biggest militaries on the planet is right here. Our military budget is more than several countries combined, times two. And again, so that's the first part. Second part is that while we may not have the largest military force, we have some of the best, right? Best equipped, best trained. So while some countries just have, I don't want to call it a dummy army, but they basically just have a huge army that they can just keep chucking at people. Just keep throwing as many people. It's horrible, but it's true. Like they don't have, the U.S. military, the reason why we definitely don't need to necessarily conscribe anymore, or have conscription, is because we've become such an advanced nation that you don't need to have a big, huge, bloated military like that in terms of personnel. We have a lot of people who are really at the controllers, behind things, behind the scenes, that do a lot of stuff. And that's not to take away from the fact that we have Marines, Navy, Air Force, all the others, Army, right? We have a lot of different groups, special forces. So if a country was that dumb to even come close to trying to do something like that, and let's say that for some reason our military is sleeping, which isn't going to happen, but let's just say that they are. And let's say that someone landed here from some other country and they tried to do what Russia's doing to Ukraine, the people wouldn't allow it. Now, this is nothing against the folks of Ukraine. I'm just talking about America, the one country that's the most well-armed. And some would argue the most crazy. You'd be stupid. So to answer your question, it's possible. Anything's possible, right? But it's just not very likely to happen. One, because it's not a good outcome with our military, because the U.S. would throw everything it has at it, right? Forget about the other countries. I'm talking about specifically when it comes to sorry, Zara's at the doctor's office as well. She's telling me stuff. So not only all that stuff that's really hard. For one, just getting here is a challenge because we know it ahead of time. And we have military installations all over the planet. Second thing is that if you are that crazy, so I wouldn't expect a country to launch something here because we have means to knocking it down and attacking with massive force, right? Just the U.S. government loves being number one, okay? It's never wanting to lose that position, not easily, and especially not over some sort of a military action. The other part is if let's say that the military is sleeping for some reason and someone landed here on our shores, there are so many hillbillies, rednecks, militias, gang members, thugs, and just regular people that's armed that you wouldn't stand a chance. I mean, this country believes very much so, the bulk of people believe in firearms. Now, we may disagree with the size, the caliber, and all this other stuff, and all of that, and the number that you can have. But the vast majority of people, even the most liberal people, have guns. So it would be really, really stupid, especially if we got wind of it. There are people who, just on principle alone, if they didn't even, let's say they ran out of bullets, would just go out there and just start attacking people, even if they know it meant death, right? Because that's how much people believe in our country. It's one of the most, this country, people don't, I think sometimes people think that we're so divided and we're so this and that. And maybe so. But it's not that way when it comes to the protection of the country. We understand, while America's a big dysfunctional family, right? There are people in your family that you don't ever want to really talk to. There's people in your family you probably don't like at all. There are people in your family that you really love, you like being around. That's basically America. But when the chips are down and someone's invading your house, you all band together, even though you don't like each other, you band together and you do what you got to do. And then after everything's done, there will be a good kumbaya moment for a little bit, and then everybody goes back to hating each other. That's America. So, no, to answer your question, I honestly don't think that something like that would ever happen to the U.S. It's not a guarantee. Now, you do have some people from some countries, and, I look at it this way. When you are on top, you never have to look down and stoop to someone else's level. You do have some people who are in other countries who jealousy is a big part of it. But others have some sort of belief with the U.S., and that's totally fine because everybody can throw their beliefs around. And I've seen some comments here and there from people in other places who try to dog the U.S. However, we still send them aid. That's what I find funny. We still basically give you welfare, but you want to sit and talk nasty. It'd be one thing for countries, for people in certain, and that's not all. But you have some people in some of the countries that we give tons of money to, and all of those people are cool with this. They don't have an issue with this. But you have a few who want to sit and basically talk mad-ish about the U.S., but you're getting aid. You get what I'm saying? Like, you're getting aid. I don't understand that. I've never understood. First, I've never understood, even when you're talking about on a small scale, I don't understand the hate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand bigots. And there are some white ones, black ones. I don't understand that. There are black folks who are bigoted towards other black people. people. I've talked about this constantly. Right in our building, there's an old black woman who don't like the fact that Noelle and I are together. She doesn't. So she tries to do these little tiny microaggressions, and I'm the type of, I don't care how old you are. You could be 5, you could be 105. If you do some sort of microaggression towards my family, now towards me, what? Most people don't. But towards my family, then you're going to have to deal with me. And now, I make it very obvious. And so the tone has changed. I don't care how old you are. Right? But getting back to my point, I don't understand that way of thinking. It's to me, it's a very primitive part. I'm saying that all humans are conditioned that way, I think, but it's a very primitive part of the brain that some people live in. Right? I remember there was some professor that was talking about this, and I did a little bit of research, not a lot, but a little bit of research. I was talking about why are there so many people who are bigots? Because just because you were brought up in a family, let's say your family's bigoted, and the child is a bigot, that's not always a guarantee, because there are some people who grew up in a racist family, but they detest it. They don't want to be a part of any sort of racism or bigotry or anything like that. And then you have other people who were brought up in a great family and turned out to be a racist, right? In our community, it's a situation of people feeling like money is the big issue, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, in the black community, the issue between black folks and other black folks, especially when we're talking about dating who and marrying who, it's about money at the end of the day. Other than that, nobody cares, because every black person, black American, has some sort of white in them. They do. And that was due to the past, during slavery and stuff like that. But every black person does. There's no true, and you really know that when you go to places where there is not a history of a lot of mixing going on. Go to places like Haiti. You'll see that you look very much different from people in Haiti and other places. So getting back to this, even if you go to places like England, you can see typically a major difference. Black folks in America, especially my complexion, come on. You know what I mean? So the whole notion of keeping things pure is laughable, because there's no such thing in this country with that. And for two, it typically in our country is not so much about a lot of that stuff. Some of it's jealousy and all of that other stuff, but a big portion of it is finances, money, right? In other places, it's basically, making sure my microphone's still on, is basically genitalia envy. I can't say it the way I want to say it because of YouTube, but there's a lot of people who have a massive amount of envy, and they don't even know the reality, right? There's nothing to be envious of, but you have people who, for some reason, in their mind, again, is just churning with things that really have nothing to do with them. They lack confidence. So I don't know. I don't understand that part of it. I never have understood it. But to get back on track here, nothing like that I don't think would ever happen here, right? I don't think that would happen. Do I think a country would try to start a war with the U.S.? Possibly, sure. But I don't think that they're willing to take that risk. That, you know, what happened with Japan was made as an example. And ever since then, countries are like, okay, yep, got it. That was made an example. Keep in mind, Japan was a superpower. And when you basically hit a country so hard that it completely changes that trajectory quite a bit, and you went from being a country that was active in having a military to where now it's basically Japan's military is a defensive, protective type of thing, right? So other countries are like, yeah, I don't want any parts of that, because we have ways of delivering what we need to deliver very easy. Now, other countries like Russia and China and a few others, have also developed the same type of capabilities when it comes to that. However, the U.S. is typically, for all of our follies and for all of our dysfunction, the U.S. typically finds ways and tries to think far ahead. We may be horrible when it comes to our education system. We may be horrible when it comes to our healthcare system and getting people on board with that and how to handle that and housing. And we have a whole list of issues, but the one area that we definitely don't have an issue is in our military and the type of stuff that we have, the technology that we have. So that makes a lot of other places very, very envious and jealous. And some of the citizens are. They don't want to admit that, but they'll talk about all the negatives. Now, does that make America a place that is fair? No, it's not. It isn't. Does it mean that America hasn't started wars that it shouldn't have started? Absolutely. There's a plenty. There's a plenty. Right? There's one of the reasons why I never got into the military to begin with. One, I couldn't handle somebody shooting at me. But for two, and I don't have what it takes. But for two, you got to go whenever you're told to go. And if I disagree with a particular war, I have no choice but to continue to be a part of it. So, yeah, I don't see that ever happening here. It could, but I just don't really see that ever happening. As far as what will Putin do and all this, who knows, man? Who really, really knows? I don't know. Right? I'm not really sure. But wars happen throughout the war. Wars happen throughout the world, and you're not seeing as much attention to those things. And there's still conflicts going on right now to this day. No one pays attention. And what's really scary is a place that had that when we look back at World War II, there's a lot of significance to a lot of what's going on right now because of, the persecution that Jews went through, right? And then ironically, you hear some official from Ukraine talking about he was heartbroken to see people who were injured and killed with their blonde hair and their blue eyes. You see what I'm saying? That is concerning to me personally. Because instead of saying, there are human beings here that are dying, which there are, it is denoted down to it bothers him the most that these are blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. Now, maybe that's not his full intention, and it may be taken out of context. I don't know. Doesn't matter. What matters is the words that you did say. And you could have easily said the human lives that are lost. That's probably a more modern, logical way to say things versus some primitive concept about blue hair or blue eyes and blonde hair. You see what I'm saying? Like the blonde hair and blue-eyed people are not any more important than anybody else. They're not more important than black skin or someone with olive skin or yellow tinted skin or any other type of skin. You see what I'm saying? So for one, it has turned a lot of people of color off because of what has been shown and what has happened to black people and Indian people trying to leave the country, and you have people holding them back by using guns. And before people say, well, they're holding back men to fight, if I'm over there in Ukraine and I didn't get out when I needed to, and I'm from the U.S., I'm not necessarily fighting in someone else's war. So I'm not subject to stay there and fight somebody else's battle. That's not how that works. So the African Union went there because some people will sit and laugh about the African Union and make jokes and all this other stuff. But to be honest with you, the African Union's military, because they, similar to the European Union, African Union, all of those countries, I think it's 50 countries, has a pretty significant, powerful military, especially with Nigeria. Nigeria is a very wealthy country. Now, people don't want to give credit where credit's due because the people look like this, or a little bit darker. They don't want to give credit where credit's due, but it is what it is. And there are African countries who have actually given money to help European countries a few years ago when they were in their economic sink. But that's not what's really important on people's minds. They don't care about the facts. They want to play into the optics. So at the end of the day, there needs to be more civility all around, right? There needs to be more civility, because all it does, if Ukraine does survive, it hurts Ukraine in the future, because other countries will say, and I've said this before, I said this on Facebook, people of color, in my opinion, should not live anywhere in Europe. Just in my, it's different to visit, but I don't think people of color, unless you were born and raised there, to just volunteer and move there, I don't see that, right? I'm not talking about the people who their parents were born there or whatever, or their parents immigrated there and they were born there or they recently. That's different. I'm talking about the people that just go there, and some go for school or whatever. Okay, fine. But when things like this happen, people talk about America. It's scary here in America and blah, blah, blah. Maybe. You have a point. Or, America was full of a bunch of bigots and racists and blah, 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 blah. Maybe. Sure. But I can say this. I can go anywhere in this country. North, south, east, west, deep south, middle of the country, and get on a train without having white people hold me off the train. And not only me, I mean, if someone came from Zimbabwe and they wanted to get on a train, they'd be able to. I honestly believe that. Given all of how crazy this country is and how there are racist systems in place and bigger, absolutely. I'm not going to say that there isn't. But I, with full confidence, know that that situation would not happen here. I'm not saying they won't face discrimination. People talk mad-ish. And I'm big into believing in truth and facts. Just like some folks from Seattle were talking mad-ish about Tacoma. And I'm like, you have a city that has had a murder every day. Well, not every day, but for the past week, I think, there were 2 murders right in downtown, blocks from each other, if not more. Seattle is in no place to criticize anybody. And Seattleites are definitely not in a place to criticize anybody. And so some of these people don't even live in Seattle or any place else, but they're sitting here saying, well, what about that Tacoma aroma? It shows you just how dumb people are. Right? And those are people you definitely don't want to have any part of anything, to be involved in government on any level. You know what I mean? Like when things like this happen, you really start to think there are certain people who definitely do not belong in politics. They're just not. We don't need those types of people in politics. And unfortunately, we have some of those on both sides that really should stay far away. It's one thing to be very partisan and all of that, which that has always kind of been the case. But when you have some people that are very much just you can tell something is very wrong, they shouldn't be in politics, in my opinion. But anyhow, hope I answered your question. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.